Hi, this is Scott Yaris with Stuttering Therapy Resources. I'm back with the second installment of our series of videos about helping kids who stutter who are experiencing bullying. The first video was posted a little over a week ago in honor of Better Hearing and Speech Month. And in that video, we focused on how to help the child first come to terms with stuttering. The first step, really, in anything that you do with kids who stutter involves helping them understand what they're experiencing, helping them reduce their concerns about stuttering, and ultimately helping them to desensitize to those moments of stuttering. Although we were talking about bullying, we start with that desensitization because it's very hard for the child to respond to the bully while he's still feeling very concerned about his own speech. So that was step one. But simply desensitizing a child to stuttering is not sufficient for dealing with bullying. It's an important first step, but it's not the only step we're going to take. Today, I'm going to talk briefly about how to help kids respond when they're being bullied. Because one of the things that people want to do when somebody's picking on them is they want to be able to respond in order to essentially tell the person to stop. The problem is verbal responses can be very difficult for children who stutter because obviously they stutter. Moreover, in that moment when you're being picked on, when you're very uncomfortable about what is going on, when somebody is hurting your feelings, it's particularly difficult to be able to respond verbally. Kids who stutter may experience increased physical tension, increased struggle, increased discomfort, and that can increase their stuttering. So we want to help them be able to respond verbally in a way that will lead to reduced bullying. One of the things that research shows helps with this is that simple, matter-of-fact comments that acknowledge what the bully is saying can help to reduce further bullying. In essence, remember that the bully is bullying for a reason. Bullies bully because they have a problem of their own. They have a low self-esteem that they are having difficulty dealing with, and they make themselves feel better by picking on others. They thrive on other people's negative reactions. If the bully is getting those other negative reactions, then they're going to keep bullying about that topic. And if they're not getting those negative reactions, then, well, what they do is they move on. They talk about something else, or they talk to someone else, hoping to get a negative reaction. What that means is if the bully does not get the negative reaction he's seeking, then he is less likely to continue picking on that child about that thing. Again, he'll go pick on somebody else about something else, hopefully not somebody else on your caseload, but in essence what we're hoping to do is shift the bully's attention away from the child who stutters. We have to recognize that there's nothing that we can do through the child who stutters that's going to help the bully. The bully needs help of his own. And one of the benefits of the bullying management programs that are in place in many school districts today is that children who are bullies are also getting help. They need help too. They're victims in this situation as well because they have a problem of their own. Okay? So, again, with the child who stutters, what we're hoping to do is redirect the bully away from this thing that's so painful for the child who stutters, talking about his stuttering itself. We've helped to reduce the pain through the desensitization work that we talked about in the last video, but in addition, we want to help redirect the bully. And so to do this, we want to help the child who stutters respond to bullying in a way that doesn't give the bully the negative reaction that he's looking for. He's looking for the pain, he's looking for the shame, he's looking for the tears, the turning red, the embarrassment, the anxiety. And if he doesn't get that, if he doesn't get what he's wanting, then he'll move on. Well, how do we help the child do that? Well, first of all, we can talk to him about what responses to bullying might be like, both verbal responses and nonverbal responses. We can talk to him about how can he respond to the bully in order to let the bully know, essentially, that doesn't bother me, or at least it doesn't bother me as you think it might, as much as you think it does. Okay? Well, examples might be simple statements like, when the bully says, "Ah, you stutter," the kid who stutters can say, "Yeah, you're right, I do." What's the bully going to say to that? He's not getting the negative reaction that he wants. He can say, "Well, you can't talk." And the kid who stutters can say, "Well, yeah, you should have seen me before." Or, "I know, it's kind of a bother." What I like to try to help kids do is in that moment when they're being picked on, to be able to respond to the bully in such a way that says, "Nah, that doesn't really bother me." It may, inside. That's why we do the desensitization work that we talked about last time. But now we're trying to say, not really. Doesn't really bother me. You're not going to get what you want from that. Interestingly, This is what parents mean when they tell kids who stutter that they should just ignore the bully. But it's impossible to ignore when somebody's picking on you about the thing that you hate most about yourself. It's not really ignoring that we want here. We want to acknowledge the bullying. We want to acknowledge the stuttering, but acknowledge it in a way that shows the bully, doesn't really bother me. Now, this is going to take practice for the child to be able to do. And so a big part of what we do in therapy with kids who stutter, who are being bullied, is help them learn to respond to bullies in this simple, matter-of-fact way that says to the bully, doesn't really bother me. There's a whole bunch of different responses that kids can use, and they can brainstorm with you in therapy about what responses they'd like to try. In our book and in the workbook for students, we have a series of worksheets that they can work through to help themselves learn different responses and try out different responses until they find one that they like. These can include verbal responses like, yeah, you're right, or so, or I know, or you told me that yesterday, or yeah, did you know actually that's something that comes from my brain, or did you know I go to therapy for that? Or they can be nonverbal responses, such as simply walking away, or saying verbally, I don't like when you do that, and then engaging in some other activity. A combination of both verbal and verbal responses that show the bully you're not going to get the negative reaction that you want from me will eventually cause the bully to get bored and to move on. Now, we have to keep in mind, the bully has a need to feed. He's been feeding on this child who stutters for quite some time. It may take a little while before he begins to realize that this kid's not going to be a good target for his bullying anymore. Okay? And so your child who stutters may need to be prepared to use these responses repeatedly until the bully gives up. Eventually, he'll get bored. Now, there's much, much more to say about this, about how to help the child respond to bullying. It is going to take practice to help the child learn to do that. And in the next video, I'll talk about some ways that we help children practice their responses. But I'm going to give you a little hint before I sign off for now. A question you might ask yourself: when the child uses these verbal responses, is it important for him to use them fluently? Now, the answer to that is that it's utterly irrelevant whether or not he uses them fluently, but he does need to be able to use them. It is still going to take some practice to do, and that practice will be the topic of our next little video. This is Scott Yaris from Stuttering Therapy Resources. For more information about our products, about helping kids who stutter, who are being bullied, also our book on school-age children who stutter, how to improve your therapy with an assessment with school-age kids who stutter, please see our website. It's www.stutteringtherapyresources.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube as well. Thanks very much.